The Acolyte Episode 7 will hopefully answer many questions the show has raised, causing its release time on Disney Plus to be much coveted information. The ending of The Acolyte Episode 6 continued to dangle reveals and answers in front of viewers, raising the anticipation for the final 2 episodes. Even before that, however, the show offered up glimpses of what could be possible concerning Sith versus Jedi lightsaber battles in The Acolyte Episode 5, making the potential action sequences of the last 2 episodes of Season 1 even more exciting. While the frustrating pacing of Episode 6 brought to light some of the Acolyte's narrative problems, the tension built around the final 2 episodes is palpable. From the promise of flashbacks that reveal the Acolyte Episode 3's biggest unanswered questions to the development of the mysterious Kimmer, the concluding episodes of The Acolyte Season 1 are set to make or break the show as a whole. As such, The Acolyte Episode 7's release time will be desired by many, as will the potential story audiences may get to see. The previously established release plan, The Acolyte Episode 7 will be released on Disney Plus at 6 p.m. Pacific Time, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, and 2 a.m. British Summer Time. This release time is consistent with all 6 prior episodes of The Acolyte. On June 4th, the 2-episode premiere of The Acolyte released at the aforementioned times. Since then, each subsequent episode has followed the same release schedule, with The Acolyte Episode 7 continuing the trend on July 9th. Before exploring The Acolyte Episode 7, it is worth recapping what happened in The Acolyte Episode 6. The Jedi Massacre of The Acolyte Episode 5 marked a major turning point in the series. Yord and Jeki were unceremoniously killed, and Kimmer was unmasked as the mysterious stranger practicing the ways of the Sith. After the many lightsaber duels and Jedi deaths in The Acolyte Episode 5, May and Osha switched places as Master Soul reckoned with events, leading to an interesting albeit exasperating story in The Acolyte Episode 6. Undoubtedly, the most compelling aspect of The Acolyte Episode 6 was the story of Kimmer and Osha. After the latter switched places with May, she was subject to spending time with Kimmer on a faraway planet. Through a flirtatiously antagonistic connection, Kimmer began sowing seeds of doubt in Osha's mind about the Jedi Order. Not only did the Acolyte episode SIXS Kimmer Reveals prove that he was once a Jedi himself, but he also began to probe Osha about why she left the Order. Kimmer stoked Osha's anger and resentment by endlessly questioning her on why she failed the Jedi, doing so with notable Sith manipulation. While asking Osha why she left the Jedi, he reminded her of the Jedi's inability to hold attachments and the one-sided relationships she formed with members of the Order. This eventually culminated in Osha's anger overflowing, stating that she failed. Kimmer's corruption then sinks deeper, with the stranger telling Osha that only after they lose everything can they finally be free. On the other side of the Acolyte episode SIXS story were May and Soul. This storyline was admittedly more frustrating than Osha and Kimmer's, primarily due to the murky, unclear motivations of May since the Acolyte Episode 4. Despite trying to kill Soul in the Acolyte Episode 6, May was continuously interrupted by power outages, ship issues, the ever-vigilant Basil, and Soul himself. Throughout the episode, May confronted Soul about the events on Bryndock and why the Jedi had not yet told her, or Osha, what really happened that night. At one point, Soul almost told May what happened on Bryndock before being interrupted. However, after discovering her deceit, Soul stunned May and handcuffed her on his ship. Soul states that he has spent 16 years figuring out what he would say to May if he had the chance, before telling her that he will finally explain what happened on Bryndock. As Soul states this, the episode ends, promising big things for the Acolyte Episode 7. Thanks to the Acolyte episode SIXS ending, the Acolyte Episode 7 is expected to reveal what happened when Osha and May were children. The conversation between Soul and May, as well as Osha communing with the Force by donning the Acolyte Sith helmet, positions the Acolyte Episode 7 as a flashback episode. For the first time since the Acolyte Episode 3, the show will return to Bryndock and explain exactly what happened on the planet that set the events of the series into motion. Some other behind-the-scenes elements support this. For one, the Acolyte Episode 7 is directed by Kaganada, the filmmaker responsible for directing the Acolyte Episode 3. As such, it is likely the director will provide audiences with the missing half of the story he told on Bryndock, detailing the deaths of the Witch Coven and how May's seemingly small fire resulted in the destruction of the entire fortress. This will undoubtedly answer several of the mysteries that were left behind in the Acolyte Episode 3, giving more context to the entire story before Episode 8's finale. One thing that has endlessly been teased about Brindok's tragic events is the Jedi's involvement. Master Sol, Indara, Kelnaka, and then Padawan Torben undoubtedly had something to do with the destruction on Brindok, which the Acolyte Episode 7 is expected to reveal. Similarly, how Kimmer fits into things is expected to be touched on. It is entirely possible that Kimmer was on Brindok all those years ago, trying to harness the power of two from the witches, which itself was mentioned as an Acolyte Episode 6 Easter egg by Kimmer. Finally, the Acolyte Episode 7's flashbacks will delve further into the mystery of the Sith. Despite revealing more about Kimmer, it is still unclear whether he is a Sith Lord, apprentice, or even a Sith at all. With the Acolyte originally billed as an exploration of the Sith infiltration that leads to Palpatine's plan in the Star Wars prequel trilogy, more about the wider motivations of the Darksiders will likely be revealed in the Acolyte Episode 7 when it releases on Disney Plus at 6 p.m. Pacific Time, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, and 2 a.m. British Summer Time on July 9th.